Long iron, utility iron, or hybrid? This age-old question that goes round and round and round again. Which should you game and why? I'm going to show you some tests to show you why you could benefit from one of these over the other. Is there really a better or worse? We'll put some ideas and definition into that. I've got two clubs. I've got the Strixon ZX utility iron. This is a 18 degree, it's their 2. And I've got the Strixon ZX3 hybrid. This is a 19 degree. So we're within 1 degree of each other of the two clubs. But don't worry about that. We'll work that into the data and try and explain what might suit your game better and why. So the design of the two to kick us off is different. Obviously a hybrid, you've got the centre of gravity further back from the face. It's more of a half moon shape, more like a little wood than it is an iron, which is going to in theory help maybe with launch and also with peak height. So keeping the ball up in the air higher, which will give it a bigger descent angle, so increased descent angle, which might allow you to hold it on greens, which we'll test. The iron comes with a more triangular shape. You do start to see the back out of these clubs a lot more. They're not hiding the back like they used to so much, which is great. So it's really stepping towards a hybrid, but when you look at it, it looks like an iron. And one of the defining factors, or a couple of the defining factors, obviously it's the silver to the dark finish, you know, very iron to a more woody finish. But the hybrid has roll and bulge. That's the curve on the face, so from top to bottom and from toe to heel. This roll and bulge is there for when you're missing the center of the sweet spot. In theory, because the center of gravity is off the face, the ball's going to spin offline. This is going to start it more offline to allow it to spin, in theory, back onto line. The irons don't have roll and bulge. You've got the flat face, so you're not going to get that recovery on miss hits, is the idea, which again we're going to test, and the results of the test are amazingly interesting. So let's talk a little bit about looks and feels to kick us off. So a hybrid feels like a hollow-bodied club, like a wood. You know, you can tell there's nothing going on in there. Obviously there is stuff going on in there, but it feels like a hollow club. It makes that tingier sound. And it presents down by the ball like more wood. You know, it's got next to no offset, you've got the rounded back, and you've got the curved face, which you have to work into alignment and how you see the shot. I love hybrids. They feel great to me. But they do definitely feel more like I'm playing a fairway wood than an iron. Where a utility iron feels like an iron. It's that duller sound and obviously presenting much straighter leading edges and everything, if you love your irons, you're going to want to see, just with a bit of the club out the back. So the feels and the looks are 100% going to play into what you want to look down at. Before we show data that might make you change minds or not, you're going to look down at one of these and think, yeah, that makes sense, that blends, and you're going to look down at another and go, yeah, that makes sense, that's what I want to play. Which is great, and I'll work with students when we talk about this, you know, which club should you have, and if there's one that you can just see they just love, yeah, I wouldn't change them. Apart from when we do the tests that I've shown you, if we do see a difference in the data that allows them to perform better on the course, then I would have to then persuade them that I now don't care what you like the look of, you need to go with what's coming out the other end. And the reason I say that is, do I want to stand up there with a 2-iron and smash it 260 down there, you know, like a tee shot and look like the coolest pro player in the world? Yeah, ego-wise, it's going to be better. But if it doesn't perform that way for me, playing with your ego is a way of just dropping loads of shots. That leads on to the next question, the style of play that you have. Like, what kind of golfer are you? So if you're a hybrid player and you're someone that de-lofts the hit shot, so you hit shots and you take loft off, a hybrid might work and it might not. A driving iron, subject to how much loft you take off, can work, and you've got to be careful that it might not launch in the air. So in effect, the hybrid might be more versatile. Now, if you're someone who plays with the loft that's on the club, which lots of you do, lots of you are actually adding loft, which is something you'd want to stop doing, but it's a way lots of people play. The hybrid is going to perform way better for that style of golfer when you hit out at the bottom of the club, which is what you'll do if you're adding loft. You're going to find you hit a lot out the bottom. This club is just not going to do so well out of the bottom. It's going to launch generally low and then lower because it's out the bottom. The help of this might really assist. The fact they can get the weight further back and down on a hybrid because of the size might help you. So your style of play will severely influence which one of these you will get the most out of. Now I'm someone, this is a 19 degree loft. I'm someone who used to play with my old swing much more popping these up in the air, and I would deliver 22 degrees of loft. So I've delivered more loft that's on the club, and loved hybrids. Just pop them up in the air, play my golf, you know, hit middle to bottom groove, and it goes okay. Absolutely delves into how I used to play. And I used to pick driving irons up and think, yeah, that makes sense. I could hit that. Like if I want a really narrow tee shot, that makes sense in my head. But hitting it the way I just hit that shot, adding loft, these just never worked. Hence, I always used the hybrid. Now, even though I'm still very much a hybrid player, I play in a very different style now with my speed training. I actually de-loft clubs a lot more because I'm trying to add speed and take loft off to really increase smash factors and ball speed. By de-lofting the clubs into impact now, so 12 degrees of delivered loft on this 18 degree club, this club makes a lot more sense. I hit shots like I've never hit before. I hit up the face more. So that de-lofting is allowing me to get better strikes, where when I was adding loft, I was just catching them out the bottom and think, why would I want a club that just feels horrible out the bottom? I hit it down there all the time. So the way you play, your style of play will absolutely influence which one of these are. Now, if you're someone who's transitioning your style of play, like me, you might find that you transition through different clubs, and that's not a problem. If you're not, you're just happy how you play and you hit shots and off you go, then you will find that you just stick in one of these clubs or not. Now let's show you the data, because the data is not, well, I think it's really eye-opening, even though I think a lot of you will know what this data is going to show. I think it shows something slightly more interesting that maybe we're forgetting. So the first thing we see from the two clubs is you definitely see more peak height. I'm around 6 yards higher peak height with the hybrid over the long iron, which is something you'll see with lots of golfers, I think, over time, if you hit enough shots. That's just going to allow me the other end, so when the ball's landing, if it's getting up in the air, it's going to generally descend a little steeper, which gives me more control the other end. But think about that, it might give me less run out and distance, subject to where we're using it. I've got a little game coming at the end to try and explain that a bit more. So I swung the clubs both around 100 miles an hour, so at the same speed. They are the same length, these clubs. But what was interesting is the dynamic loft that I presented was 2 degrees different. Remember, these are 1 degree difference in club. So it was easier for me to present 1 degree extra of loft. So 2 in total, but 1 through what I must be doing from the club that's more stretched back. And that's a common pattern, because you'll have maybe a little bit more bending forward when the center of gravity off the face, which again encourages that little bit more launch. So there's your slightly friendlier 1 degree options coming in, because if I'm delivering that little bit more dynamic loft, we see that reflect through in the launch. Again, around 2 degrees launching slightly higher. Now 2 degrees launching higher with the hybrid for me, fantastic. Downhill lies, slightly scrubby lies. Situations on the course where loft's going to be and launch is going to be ripped away from me, I've got a little bit extra. With the iron, it's pushing me on the kind of edge of my fairway shot launch from more situations, which would make that club less situation based for me. Now the other standout thing from the data, which will relate to the test in a second, was I want you to look at the 2 circles. So these are my dispersion of shots. What I found from the hybrid, and this is something I find a lot, is that left to right miss was bigger with the hybrid, but short to long was tighter. Bit friendlier club. That roll and bulge is just stretching my left and right misses out, so it's spinning a bit too far offline because I can miss hit that one. Where the iron was more penetrating down the middle with less deviation left and right, but had a bigger deviation short and long. Now, what would that mean for you in choice of a hybrid or a long iron? Well, let's play this game to try and explain that a little bit more. So you start giving me a course like this off the tee, where I want to use this shot off the tee, trees left and right. I feel like the iron, look how narrow this hole is, like that's going to happen more often. Drilling it straight, like, yes, I'm going to get run out. If I toe or heel it, it's not going to gear effect way offline. I am going to feel like I'm going to be a fairway machine more than the hybrid. but I am also going to realize when I mishit it on this axis as well as this one, where it might not go offline, that circle dropping back might leave me more in. So it's that balance, isn't it? So can I do that with a hybrid? I feel like I can. But I feel if I go wrong with the hybrid, I'm just going to turn it a fraction more. That was a fraction on the toe side. And you see how it's like, if I get that way out the toe, I'm going to be in those trees on the left. So like with everything in golf, and this is the beauty of this game and how the equipment is managed, even though often the press will tell you, oh, it's so much easier now because you've got this, that and the other. It's just a constant trade. No club has got all the answers. Where this benefits because it might go a little higher and launch a little bit higher and land a little steeper, the hybrid's got the roll and bulge. So this curve on the face, which helps you, but at the same time, it can hurt you. Now, 230-ish yards out with a bunker to fly where the ball's not going to stop, yeah, hybrid me up. Like the hybrid just feels like I've got some room for error and I've got some room to do that to help that ball come down and stop. So where this felt like a disadvantage in one situation, this situation, it feels more like an advantage. And obviously people talk about at a course like this, the wind, like this one going higher, we're talking 6 yards. I reckon off the ground into that kind of green, I reckon the difference in enough shots is going to be between 3 and 4 yards in height. 4 yards higher really going to make any effect with a side wind, into a wind, downwind? It's going to be minimal. And where I feel I can do what I can do with a hybrid with this club, that's an interesting one. So that was toey. So we're landing more bunker high, and it's finished less because it kicked, but it didn't gear anywhere like the hybrid. So the hybrid with that strike would have been way further left, but taking the bunker way out of play still. There's a really good example, slightly out the bottom, which is where I hit it. And again, we're getting away with it, but that would be struggling to carry the bunker. So the key moral to this, which hopefully you're getting from this video, is that it's you that's the defining factor. What do you want? More accuracy off the tee and you'll just approaches, you'll let them go and use the clubs you've got. Do you want more accuracy on the short and long misses with your approaches with a little bit more height, a bit more variable from different lies? That's what I want, because I'm not going to use either of those clubs off the tee unless I'm forced to, because I'm happy with my driver. If you're not happy with your driver, this is where the driving iron might really play. You can get good distance, not the same as your driver, but you see how much more accurate you might be getting it. And remember, whichever one you choose isn't the right one, because there'll be situations where you think, I wish I had the other one. And you've got to work out in a year or in a season how many times those situations tip you more towards the long iron or more towards the hybrid. For me, totally tips me more towards the hybrid. I'm going to use my driver off the tee, and I'm hitting lots of 200 yards and 230-yard approach play shots if I play big courses. So I want those hybrids in there for that land angle. It's horses for courses. Is one better than the other? No. It's how you play and how you see it. But you are going to get more peak height generally, a little bit more launch on the hybrid, but your left and right misses might just stretch out with that roll and bulge. Let me know what you think. If you want to understand how to play your hybrids better, this video's got great information in how to master your hybrids.